Most of the Earth's ocean is unexplored. There are lots of stories about what could be down there, one of which is about another human-like species. What if it was true? What if there was another civilization under the tides, and what if they were partially related to humans too? Hi, I'm Sunday. This is a cuttlefish. They're not related to humans and they've been discovered. Cuttlefish are a part of a group of mollusks called cephalopods, which they share with octopuses, octopi, octopus, whatever, and squids. Let me know in the comments how you say the plural for octopus. Cuttlefish are the cephalopods in the order Cepida, and they're different because of a unique internal shell called the cuttlebone. What an incredible name. Congrats to whoever coined that one. Cuttlefish have big eyes with pupils that look like a W. They have 8 arms and 2 tentacles that are armed with suction cups. They're super smart but only live 1 or 2 years, so they're not exactly going to the next World Domination Convention. Unless. So I had this idea for a parasitic species of cuttlefish. This isn't a Spec Evo video, so I'm not going to go into the biology of it or anything, but basically they lived alongside early humanoids that went in the water. They would basically replace the head of these people and control their bodies. Then they'd live the rest of their hosts' lives in perfect health. Here's the final art. They could hunt decently well, but they weren't intelligent, nor were they particularly strong. Basically, they had the cons of being human without the pros. It was tough for the parasite to survive on land without dehydrating, but its host wasn't exactly built for aquatic life either. So they had to evolve. Okay, fine, I'm gonna get into the biology of it. Feel free to skip, I'll put a timestamp for when I start talking about the individual character. Just let me be a nerd for a bit. After taking over their host, the parasite combined their DNA to create a new species, kinda like a chimera. Because the DNA of the parasite resembles human DNA with an X chromosome, even the ones that took a human male as a host will always produce female children when mating with a female. This species can live on their own now without any human intervention. They're not a sexually dimorphic species, and gender is pretty much non-existent in their culture. They've evolved for deep-sea survival, but instead of losing their eyes, they've gone in the opposite direction. It's mostly so these characters can have some charm, but I'm going to say there was some bioluminescence in the area that made it worth speccing into eyesight. They eventually absorbed the DNA of the bioluminescent organisms, and now glow as well, cause it's cooler that way. Basically, they've got built-in flashlights. Some other differences from humans is that they've got no gases in their body, so they're mostly immune to pressure changes. I'm not smart enough to tell you the other effects that has on their body. I'm taking biochemistry next year. They're super dense animals and are surprisingly good at running or swimming underwater, with their main hunting method being a quick dive to catch fish below them. They have retractable claws that unsheath from their wrists when they make a fist. Here's some old art of this specific character whose name used to be Lily. For a while she had this huge second head, but I can't justify how inefficient that would be above ground or underwater. Here's more art, one of which had my idea of what the claws would look like, and more art. I experimented with an even longer second neck head thing. It doesn't really work in my opinion, so here's some of my process for drawing their new design. Their name is now Zuila, a name I got from arbitrarily combining the word for lightning in Haitian, Creole, Malay, and Maori. Why those languages? They're on Google Translate, and I picked them randomly. I'm really bad at making up words, so when I want to make something that sounds foreign or alien, I usually just combine random languages. They're not from any culture we know or even anything comparable, so hopefully Zuila works better than Lily. The new name also reflects that they don't follow the gender binary that we do, though to be fair, Zuila definitely sounds feminine anyway. Before we talk more about their story, let's look at their background and culture. Zuila comes from a small cave town in the Pacific called Hudai, secluded from most other life in that vast ocean. They live around a thermal vent which gives them most of their energy. They've cultivated and domesticated seagrass fruit, though most of their diet comes from crustaceans and the occasional fish from outside town. This is what the average cuddle person looks like. Yeah, that's the name I'm going with. I know it's giving every pony, but it works. Though they're shorter than the average human at about 170 centimeters, they weigh upwards of 100 kilograms. Their body isn't exactly hydrodynamic for swimming, but for diving. They climb the underwater cliffs with their sharp claws, and then dive down at large fish. There's lots of different races and even subspecies of cuttle people, but this isn't a speculative evolution video. Here's what the average person from Hudai looks like. Their bodies are less hydrodynamic, but they have longer tentacles and sturdy claws for breaking shells. They're still adapted for ambush hunting, but in a very different way. They move slowly and quietly until they're close enough to simply grab their relatively small prey. As for their culture, kids are mostly allowed to roam free thanks to the relative safety of the town. They learn basic hunting skills very early on, and can also find seagrass fruit pretty easily. There's about 1,000 people in Hudai, and most people know each other. I'm not going to get into how they reproduce, but they lay eggs in a way that can be difficult to tell whose eggs are whose. Because of that, it's not actually super important to most cuttle people that their kids are genetically related to them. Hundreds of eggs are laid once a year around the same time, and they're kept in something like a nursery. About a third of the eggs hatch, and when they do, people who want to be parents come by and take the babies they want. First come, first serve kind of thing, and usually all the babies end up being adopted. The eggs that don't hatch are then recycled as something like fertilizer for their farms. This is Zuila. They have a skin condition called sepidism, which is a thing I made up that means a cuttle person produces ink pigment in their skin. It doesn't really do anything other than making their skin a dark shade of brown over the typical pink color. It was because of this that no one wanted to adopt them, so they've always been a bit of an outcast. Zuila explored the outskirts of the town since they were very little, and eventually lost their way. In 2020, as COVID-19 started to really blow up, Zuila washed up on the shore of Los Angeles, California. They were still alive, but lost in an alien world. Wait, how could they breathe outside water? They had dormant lungs that filled with air as soon as she left the water. Don't question it. Magic. Also, like newborn babies I think do that, I don't know. Okay, even though we're talking about Earth, it's not quite the same as the one in the real world. The main difference is that some animals, including people, caught a virus that gave them superpowers when they were born. Again, don't question it too much. The virus isn't COVID, by the way. It's called the PRONOUNS virus, and the first infection was in 1924, then the one after that was in 1951. It's a very uncommon infection, but it's been multiplying pretty rapidly. By 2017, there was a total of 18 infections, with the first superhero school training 13 students. Maybe someday I'll find an excuse to talk more about that in a video, but for now our story is set in 2020. Zuila was first discovered by a group of tourists who reported them to the police. They first thought Zuila was the result of some new mutation with the PRONOUNS virus, but DNA testing proved that they were some weird chimeric species. Zuila was living alone in a lab for a few weeks, but enough outrage from the public caused superhero in training Riley Purple to negotiate letting them live with a family between trips to the lab. Riley Purple is a cool character on her own, and I'm going to talk about her because y'all don't give me criticism, so I'll do what I want. Riley has two separate abilities brought by the PRONOUNS virus, but was born without arms. Her wealthy family built mechanical arms for her, which she uses extensively as a superhero. They're a little too big for her, but they allow for superhuman strength, durability, and precision. At least in her arms. Although she didn't build the prototype, she's pretty smart herself and built the models she uses. Abilities don't usually work like this, but hers are simply an addition of both her parents' abilities. One is that she can stop time for 5 seconds each hour. That doesn't stack, so she makes it a point to use it every hour she's awake, not just for practice, but also because it's cool to have an extra minute per day. Her second ability is that she can read minds, if they make eye contact. And by reading minds, I just mean that she can see what someone's thinking at that moment. This ability isn't super useful in battle when people know she can do that, but I guess it's fun if you're a high schooler. She usually wears sunglasses though, so she doesn't make anyone uncomfy. This is celebrity governor Mark Juniper and his girlfriend Amy Arrow. They adopted Zuila and have been making progress in communicating with them. Zuila can speak, but they primarily communicate with sign language. Arrow is a family doctor, while Juniper is a YouTuber turned politician. He's generally smart and likable, but any politician has their problems. He has a good heart and he's doing his best to take care of Zuila and the rest of California. Arrow is the real smart one though. That was just a bunch of exposition, so let's talk about what I was thinking when I made these characters. I've never read a comic book in my life, but I'm a real sucker for that aesthetic and vibe in general, which is why I made a kind of basic superhero story for Planet Earth. Just for clarification, all my making a character and speculative evolution videos take place in the same universe. Just keep in mind that they could be at very different times and places. When it comes to this story though, its connections to origin are pretty thin. Riley's superpowers are kinda arbitrary, but they have to do with later story points. Her powers at first seem kinda weak, but I think the stopping time thing is generally one of the best superpowers. Getting a free 5 seconds on someone in a fight is a huge game changer, especially if you have super strength. Reading their mind also helps a ton, though again that probably wouldn't activate much. But yeah, even though those abilities would be pretty awful on their own compared to something like real super strength or speed or stuff like that, even just having superpowered arms makes her one of the strongest superheroes of our time. There's also Juniper and Arrow, who aren't very important characters, but I kinda like the idea of celebrity politicians and fictional stuff. I just think it would be kinda funny if Markivider was also the governor of California or something like that. Canonically, Jupiter's YouTube name is Markivider, which is unimportant to the lore, but I'm just making it clear that none of my characters are actually supposed to be like or represent real people. The most I'll do is just silly references like this. I haven't really done much with Amy Arrow, which I kinda feel bad about, but yeah, sometimes you need some filler characters. And of course, Zuila. Their design started a while ago with me wanting to make an Eldritch horror deep sea monster that was also a cute anime girl. It kinda shifted little by little as I wanted to make them more realistic and or possible in a story, and the biology I came up with made it less sense to make them a girl. I added the sepidism thing because I like the story aspect of a fish out of water being a black sheep in their own culture as well. Does that make sense? Fish out of water out of water? I don't know. When it comes to their body compared to humans, Zuila basically has super strength. Their claws can crush rocks and their head tentacles can latch onto a truck and flip it over. Their eyesight is superhuman already, and they can also see 360 degrees around them, though the simple eyes give blurry results. Gets the job done most of the time though. Their headlights work like a standard 100 lumen flashlight, with the addition of UV wavelengths. I feel like she's gonna make a super cool detective hero character when she grows up. If there was a second part of this story, it would take place later around 2035 when Zuila is 22 and they can be a crime-fighting superhero. This video is already pretty long though, and I have to get ready for finals. Maybe someday I'll make a part 2. Check out my Patreon where you can get your name at the end of my videos for just $1 a month. Thanks Captain Kobop, and thank you for watching. My next character making video will be about a human guy who is definitely human and not a weird octopus monster. Hope to see you there, consider subscribing, and thanks again for watching.